Hi, everyone. Welcome to my new channel. My name is Dan. In this first video, I just kind of wanted to give an idea of why I'm doing this new channel and kind of where I hope to go with it. Really, probably the idea of it started a few years ago when somebody was mentioning how in Matthew 24, Christ was warning a few different times about people falling away or being led astray in the last days. And so it was really, I guess, a concern for me of why that would happen to so many people. And I kept thinking about it. I thought, I should find out why that might happen, and maybe I could be of help to some people. They wouldn't fall away. So maybe to start with, it'd be best just if we looked at some of those verses in Matthew 24, just to see exactly what Jesus said. First of all, Matthew 24, verse 4, and Jesus answered them, "See that no one leads you astray. For many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and they will lead many astray." And then going on to verse 9, he says, "Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and put you to death, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And then many will fall away and betray one another and hate one another. And many false prophets will arise and lead many astray. And because of lawlessness will be increased, the love of many will grow cold." And then further in the chapter, verse 24 says, "For false Christs and false prophets will arise and perform great signs and wonders, so as to lead astray, if possible, even the elect." Then also there's a verse in 2 Thessalonians 2, Paul writing about when Christ comes back. He says, "Let no one deceive you by any means, for that day will not come unless the falling away comes first, and the man of sin is revealed, the son of perdition." So in these verses, we see that they're speaking of many falling away. And what are the reasons? There's false Christs, false prophets, and there's tribulation. And so there's a couple of different reasons here. So if people don't want to be led astray by false Christs and false prophets, then they need to really get into the word and see. If they know the word good, then they'll know when false prophets come. And so it's my desire for people really to get into the word and to look up things for themselves, so they won't be deceived. Be like the church in Berea who studied the scriptures when Paul talks to them. And I guess many of us are kind of lazy and we kind of leave it up to the experts, but I think each one of us need to do that, need to study ourselves, and it's not that hard. And I'll kind of explain later on how I do some of that, and it's not hard. The second thing was persecution was a cause of people falling away. If we go back to Matthew 24, verse 9, "And they will deliver you up to tribulation and put you to death, and you'll be hated by all nations for my name's sake, and then many will fall away." So the falling away here is because of persecution. We can actually see that in Matthew 13 as well, where Jesus is giving the explanation of the parable of the sower. And he says, "Hear the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what has been sown in his heart. This is what was sown along the path. As for what was sown on rocky ground, this is the one who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. And yet he has no root in himself, but endures for a while. And when tribulation and persecution arise on account of the word, immediately he falls away." And so here's the second cause of falling away is persecution. And as I thought of that in terms of end times things, it was like, okay, why? I mean, I can understand why people fall away because of persecution. I mean, it's all of us are going to be tested, and it's hard. But who most likely will fall away during persecution? As I thought of that, I thought, well, really, probably the most likely people to fall away would be those who didn't think they were going to go through any persecution at all. They just thought, God's going to protect me through everything. And of course, immediately when you think of that, you think of people who hold to the pre-trib position, because they're going to be caught up and out of here before anything too bad happens. And so it really put a burden on me that I think those people really need to be warned that, hey, from my own perspective, I believe that we are going through the tribulation, and we'll look at that. But even if you don't change your mind and think that, at least if you're prepared to do that, you'll be in a much better position. The chance of you falling away will be less. And so that's a real burden in my heart. I want people to be prepared for that. And so, you know, after I'd thought about that and I'd written some stuff down along those lines, then it was actually the next day I was reading in John, and John chapter 15, verse 20. It says, "Remember the word that I said to you, a servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will also persecute you." And then a few verses later in 16, verse 1, he says, "I have said all these things to keep you from falling away. They will put you out of the synagogues. Indeed, the hour is coming when whoever kills you will think he is offering a service to God." And so here Jesus is saying, I'm writing these things that you're going to be persecuted so that you won't fall away. So he's warning us ahead of time. He's getting us prepared so that we won't fall away. And so this channel, what I want to do is actually look at the timing of the rapture, because I believe if we find that out, then we'll basically understand a lot of end times things better. And I just want to say, at one time I was pre-trib, I've been mid-trib, pre-wrath, and now I'm post-trib. And so I understand, you know, why somebody might hold to those other views. But I think the key in this is to look at, really examine when does the Bible say the timing of the rapture is. And I think the way I found in the end that helped me the most is I just took a word that was around the end times things, such as hopefully next week the plan is to take the word resurrection. So if you just take that word and look up all the places where it's found and to do with end times, and see, what does it say? What does that word say? So it's really interpreting scripture with scripture. But I find a lot of times that we always say interpret scripture with scripture, but a lot of times I see Bible teachers, they interpret scripture with some scripture. So they don't take all the verses about that. They just take the ones that fit into their theory. And that's why we have so many people who are good Bible teachers, good in quotes, who believe all different, like there's many who believe pre-trib or mid-trib or pre-wrath or post-trib, and they all seem like good guys, good Bible teachers. But I think, like I say, part of the problem is they're interpreting scripture with some scripture as opposed to scripture with all scripture. And so if we take a word and just study it all the places that it's found, and then what it says about that, I think we'll come to truth. And so that's what I want us to do in this series. And so the plan is, like I say, next week is to actually look at the word resurrection and see how, by looking at all the places it's found, how we can see that it points to a definite timing of the rapture. And so, Lord willing, we'll look at that soon. Again, thank you for joining me, and God bless. Thank you.